You are listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report, episode number 226.2, our Final Four roundtable with Michelle Garmon, Will Rutherford, and Grant Shouse. Michelle, Will, Grant, and I talk about Saturday's fantastic games in San Antonio and make our Monday night predictions. Plus, we talk about how the players in the Final Four will fare in the NBA. We also, unfortunately, talk a little bit about officiating, plus make our prediction for Sunday night's Women's Final Four championship game.
You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengelt.
Welcome to the Central Indiana Sports Report for our Final Four roundtable, coming off two pretty incredible games last night in the national semifinals. So I have here with me Grant Shouse, our IU guy, Will Rutherford, our 5 questions guy, and Michelle, the MVP of the podcast, to talk about the Final Four and what we expect from Monday night. The only thing that I'm probably going to be able to contribute is how I feel about a few players and their NBA careers and what last night showed me. But we'll start with Grant and just your thoughts on last night. And it had to be one of the best semifinals in history.
Yeah, there's no question it had to be. It's up there. But what did we really expect? I mean, you had 4 number 1 seeds. You had the 4 best teams in the sport, at least in this tournament, going up against each other. And, 2, I wouldn't say wall to wall great games, because there were times that that Duke and Houston game looked like it was over, and it should have been over. And then Duke ended up just kind of throwing it away. So it was 2 great games. I think maybe one of the best semifinals in memory. I know there's been some good ones. Usually it seems like in the Final Four you'll have, if you're lucky, you'll have one good game, and the other one may be kind of a dud, or maybe good for 25, 30 minutes in the last 10 or not.
And it looked like we were headed that way for a while. It looked like to me Duke was the better team, and they were just going to continue to pull away until they didn't.
Yeah, but to get 2 good games like that is really, it's something, and it's something that is really good for college basketball, especially when this tournament may have been, I wouldn't say a dud, but it's been a little disappointing in some times, and
I
so
would
to
say a
get,
dud.
yeah, and so to get 2 great Final Four games and set you up for a really good national championship game on Monday is really cool.
I also thought that it was a great evening of basketball. I mean, you got 2 great games back to back. I would also agree with Grant that it was kind of expected. You've got the 4 best teams in the country. I think that's fair to say at this point, facing off against each other. It makes for good television. It had all the drama that you wanted, especially the Florida Auburn game was back and forth. The Houston Duke more in lines with the classic. Hey, we're going to play from behind the entire game. We're going to pull it out in the last 20 seconds to get a victory that we really had absolutely zero business getting. I tend to be a little different. I think this has been an excellent tournament, and I say that because I like when winners win, and all 4 of these programs are winners. The Elite Eight was
Not
a
many dramatic games, not a lot of the quality of basketball hasn't been that high for a lot of this tournament.
I like seeing dominant programs continue to dominate and show why they are the cream of the crop. It's been to me, it's been everything that they've wanted to be. I think that the Elite Eight had it's good. It's good because it was big programs, big names. You had a lot of viewership yesterday between Florida, Auburn. That's 2 pretty big nationwide fan bases, even coming from football. Duke is obviously a basketball powerhouse, and Houston's kind of an up and coming. This is a pretty serious, legit program in the last 10 years. So, I mean, they're getting to that. I don't want to say, I mean, if they win a national championship, you're talking about blue blood status in that area.
No, Houston can't be a blue blood. Not for a long time. I'm sorry, and I will be rooting against them as hard as I can. Any coach, and I know you can have redemption, but when Kelvin Sampson talks about culture in a
Do you want me to
program,
talk?
and there were drugs in his program at IU, and drug use, and he knew it and covered for it, that's not culture to me. So, I mean, that's a bad thing. He decimated a program, and it's not for the illegal things he did. And I'll be honest, as an IU person, I was not very happy when they hired him because of the thing, of his questions. Never doubted he knew his X's and O's, but it's the other stuff. I think college, even though I know we're in the NIL era, I still think it should be ethics. I mean, they're still students. They're still playing for a learning institution. It's just like high school. I mean, I think you've got to, kids have got to learn, there needs to be ethics. And because of that, and I'll tell you what, I like Bruce Pearl, but the same thing. I am so glad it's not Auburn and Houston, because there wouldn't have been I couldn't have been rooting. I wouldn't root. There would have been nobody to root for me, because two coaches that left programs, and it's one of the reasons I can appreciate Calipari. And I actually I met Calipari, and then I actually believe I met him in person at an NC2A tournament, because I mentioned our phone call. He was the coach at Massachusetts when Matt Waddell was being recruited, and Calipari actually called me in person, which shocked me, because he wanted some photos of Matt, because this was back before you had social media. So he needed some photos. So, when they bring your recruits down and you do the big video and the video board presentations, that's what he wanted, to have some of that stuff for Matt. And of course, then you really you couldn't send it electronically either. So it was the old-fashioned snail mail. So he called early so we could get it done. And be nice guy, but I mean, when you leave programs, now, and that's always been, I think, and now we're going to get off topic here for just a minute. I'll stop it here after this. I think this has always been my problem with coaches. They always could leave programs that those kids that they left behind were the ones that received the punishments in those institutions, as opposed to the coaches. They could always go on. Now, Kelvin Sampson had the 5-year show clause because he ignored his warnings from the NC2A and continued to do what they told him not to do. So he had that. But
You're talking like they're the only two, though.
No, they're not the only two. I said Calipari is that way too. And I said, and I don't get me wrong, I think Bruce Pearl's a nice guy and a good coach. I think Calipari is a nice guy and a good coach. But,
Florida's program has been through that as well. And it's Duke. You think Duke has been clean through the years? Come on. And yes, Kelvin Sampson was particularly bad, but I've just kind of let
for him. But my biggest issue with Kelvin is my biggest issue is the drug problem they had. I'm sorry, I just don't. When I hear him talk now about culture, although I will say I think Greg Popovich probably taught him a lot when he was with the Spurs as an assistant, and probably showed him what true discipline and locker room culture really is. So,
I mean, I'd like to caveat off that. I mean, I just don't think it's necessarily fair to put something that happened, 17 years ago and say, hey, he hasn't probably changed his culture. He probably didn't learn a lot from the situation that happened at IU. I don't see a reason to root against him. He's a phenomenal head basketball coach, and that was it. He outcoached John Shire yesterday. I mean, that was absolutely Houston. Houston absolutely got outcoached in the final minute of that game, and I think that Kelvin Sampson's a huge reason for that.
They out-physicaled them. I think that's just. I don't like Houston's brand of basketball.
Yeah,
it's not really basketball.
Back up on what you just said there, Will.
Shove, bully my way in.
I
because I'm
totally
stronger, but they win with it. I mean, they win. I mean, on the boards. I mean, they seem to draw fouls. They don't seem to, and everything. So, I mean, they're athletic. They're very physical. I just don't think it's a fun brand of basketball to watch. I prefer Florida, their style. I thought the other three teams have dynamic players and some true basketball style to them, and I really don't think Houston does. I think they're just a physically tough team.
We're back after a software failure there, but Michelle just said Houston's style of play is not fun to watch, and I just could not disagree more. I think they are
It's
fantastic
not basketball. It's really not basketball. Somebody put that on. Somebody tweeted today, and I thought their tweet was really. It exactly was how I was thinking and how I felt, which amazed me. But yeah, I don't think they're defensive, but I just don't think it's a fun brand. I don't find it exciting to watch their games. I didn't during the regular season either.
I disagree. If any one of those teams, believe it or not, is not fun to watch, it's Auburn, because they kind of just go out and do whatever they want to do. Then again, they do have a great player with Janai Broome,
and he is fun to watch. His
And
Auburn probably wins yesterday if Broome's healthy.
He can. Janai Broome can do whatever he wants at sometimes, but then he gets I feel like he gets lazy at sometimes. I think him and Chad Baker Mazzara, they get lazy and they settle for shots. And I actually think Houston, believe it or not, was the most fun team to watch last night.
Florida and Duke are the most fun teams. They would have been the most fun. That would have been the most fun. Plus, they had the two best players in the tournament, Cooper Flagg and Walter Clayton the second. They're the two best, heads and shoulders above the rest of the players in the tournament, above the rest of the players in college, and maybe the Knuppel kid from Duke. But their basketball acumen and stuff is just on a different level.
I also think that Houston's fun to watch. I think it's a throwback to 80s basketball. They're physical. They play tough defense. I mean, they run a system. I guess if you like offenses that run a system, I think Florida to me is probably my favorite watch and has been this entire tournament because they've got the go-to guy, but at the same time, they kind of have a flair for the theatric a little bit in a way that maybe the other teams don't. Walter Clayton, talk about a guy that can just flat out. I mean, his bag is limitless. I mean, the two deepest things on earth, Mariana Trench, Walter Clayton Jr.'s bag. That guy can score from anywhere.
I saw that exact tweet last night.
Yeah, it was a great tweet.
He'll have a tough time. He'll have a tough time at the next level because defenders. He's going to go against guys that are taller, and it'll be a little harder for him to get his shot off at times.
There's a lot of Steph Curry in that guy's game. I think he's going to be a gamer. I think he's going to be a gamer.
Like I said, the only thing I'm going to be able to talk about is NBA level, is my NBA impressions of them. And he and I think, as Michelle mentioned, Knuppel and are going to be special players at the next level. And Cooper Flagg. I mean, if you were having a draft of every basketball player on earth right now, who you would want to start a franchise, it would be hard to put anybody ahead of Cooper Flagg.
Oh, exactly.
Also, I think a guy we're forgetting about with Florida is Elijah Martin.
Mm-hmm.
He can shoot the basketball. Of course, we saw the two highlight dunks he had last night. Two unbelievable dunks. One, I think, more particularly unbelievable than the other.
Yes.
But that dude can fly. I mean, he can jump out of the gym. He kind of, in a way, you guys are probably going to disagree with me, kind of in a way reminds me, he has a little bit of Victor Oladipo in him.
Mm-hmm. I like that comp.
I mean, I think he can jump out of the gym. He can go off the dribble and shoot the basketball. He can catch and shoot kind of like Oladipo could. Oladipo is a little bit out of control. I think Elijah Martin is too in some cases, but I don't think we can go without mentioning how key he's going to be on Monday night, how key he was last night in the Final Four.
Well, I got a question. What offensive system do you think Houston runs? Because I don't think they run an offensive system. I think what they do is they put up shots and go crash the offensive boards. That's their system.
I mean, they do rebound the ball well. I mean, they out rebounded Duke, 42-31, and they were 18-10 offensive rebound to Duke, which is probably why they won the game, to be completely honest with you, especially down the stretch in the second half. I think they slow the pace down. I think that I think they play. I mean, it's dirty basketball. It's kind of nasty. It's physical, but they pack it in on defense. They make you beat them. I think they make you beat them left-handed a little bit. I think they try to take away what you're best at. And last night, I mean, they kind of let Flag get his, but outside of that, did
And
they
let's
really let
face it,
anyone else hurt
they
them?
have benefited from the whistle in a lot of their games in the last minute. Purdue, they benefited from the classic that was a classic push-off. That really was.
I mean, yeah, I mean,
The
sure.
the big guy and Cooper Flag did not commit foul. Neither one of them made contact or fouls that they got called in the last couple of minutes of
He
that
grabbed
game.
the
Now,
guy's arm.
that said, that's not all of it. My biggest, and I'm going to go because all of the games, I've been really studying this a lot because I thought officiating at watching the women's and the men's, because I think officiating keeps getting worse. And so what I've started doing is I've started looking at who the officials are, not saying
Why
where
are
they are
you
on the
watching
floor.
officials? There's a
Huh?
basketball game going on. Why are you watching
No. I
officials?
watch the game, but I watch the officials to see where they are positioned. They're not in proper position. And all of a sudden, we've got, and I noticed this because some official observer was talking about that. We've got guys and females, both levels, calling fouls that aren't in their area. They're the farthest through, and they can't see. I can say this: I've officiated. I was a licensed official for a few years, and I was taught. And being short, and I think that's the biggest problem today, as these athletes are getting taller and everything. You have to get your depth. It's just like when I coach and I have short players and they have somebody tall on them. If they're taking the ball out of bounds along the line, I make them take 2 steps back because if somebody tall is, you can't see as wide. You don't have the depth. You actually can't see. And that's what some of these officials are. They're calling fouls that they can't see. They're having to assume them. And I will say this as an official, didn't do varsity games because of my job with the newspaper. I did I did a lot of summer league stuff. Look, Marcy, and I would always tell coaches, I'd say, hey, look, I'm short. If I can only get so deep and I can't see it, I'm not going to assume it. I refuse to assume a foul. I've either got to hear the slap, because you can tell the difference of a slap on a basketball and the difference of a slap on a wrist. And I said, I've either got to hear it, or I have got to see it. And nowadays, you have too many. And
I thought the officiating was fine. Both games
I
yesterday.
did too.
I didn't really have a problem with it.
all of it. I think through the tournament, you can find. And
I haven't seen bad officiating in the entire tournament.
Oh, I have.
I don't.
And I mean, it's
Because
equally
I don't
bad
watch
for all
for
the
it.
sides. That's what I'm just saying. It's bad positioning. That's what my problem is. It's bad positioning on the officials' part and not really wanting to move. The problem is these athletes they're getting bigger, stronger, faster, and that's hard. A lot of officials can't keep up.
And by the way, Cooper Flag grabbed his arm. It should not have been called, but he definitely grabbed his arm.
By the letter of the law is a foul. I mean, by the letter of the law is a foul. I'm not saying you call it.
I don't think it should have been called at all.
Well, if you want to go that,
but he definitely fouled him.
He definitely grabbed his arm. One of those plays from Houston had him around the waist and held him.
Yes,
there was no whistle there. I'm sorry. I mean, there was, by the letter of the law, it's just, I'm sorry. He didn't. That's not a foul. Houston did that earlier in the game, and they never called a foul on Houston. Oh, there were. I'm
then
saying
we move on. They make bad calls. Move on.
Call it one way, but here's the thing: did they make a call or a bad call against Houston in the final 2.5 minutes? No.
So 2 points count the same in the first 37.5 minutes. Bad calls are bad calls.
I mean, Duke got beat
the ones at the end of the game, but they're.
I know, but that should not. I mean, I'm sorry. It's just. It is what it is. It took away the enjoyment of that game for me at the end. It took away
Then quit watching officiating.
Huh?
Then quit watching officiating and just enjoy the basketball for what it is.
I can enjoy it when the guy doesn't really. I just can't. I'm sorry. I just can't. I just get cracked up. I get cracked up too and this is both ways because it happened both times. I get cracked up anymore when officials wait to see if the basket goes in or not before they make a call. If it's a foul when they're going in, then it's a foul. Call it right away when you see it. Don't wait to see the end of the result and then blow your whistle. Flat out. That's another one of my pet peeves. You see that a lot more in women's basketball than you do men's.
Here's my take on it: is that these referees are doing the Final Four because they're the best in the sport. They're not just taking.
It's officiating is political at all levels, Grant.
I don't think it is though.
It is.
I
It's
think they're the
political at all
best.
levels.
I
How
think
has
those
Teddy
officials are the
Valentine got to
best.
do so many Final Fours and national championships? It's
Who?
political at all levels.
Ted Valentine. Because a lot of people thought he was a good official just because Bob Knight made you think that he was a horrible official doesn't mean that he was.
No. I'm talking about early on in his career he was, but as he got on, he got to keep going because of politics.
He had an
but
attitude,
his
but he was a
his
good
last 10
official.
years of officiating, he's been terrible.
He had a bad attitude, but he was a great official. So
not for the last 10 years.
Okay.
I'll offer some reasons that have absolutely nothing to do with officiating because I don't care. Houston hit more shots. They hit 2 more shots than Duke did. They hit 3 more threes and had a 4% better
Duke
3-point
couldn't even get a
percentage.
shot off in the last 4 minutes of the
Duke
game.
hit 1 field goal in the last 10 minutes, and Houston out rebounded Duke 42-13, 18-10 on the offensive boards. That's why Duke lost. Duke lost this game themselves. They didn't play very good down the stretch.
But-
John Shire didn't
But
coach
do you
very
really
well in
think
the
it
last
looks
couple
goodwill
minutes.
for Houston to benefit from 2 games to make it to the against Purdue and then against
Sure,
Duke with that kind of call?
the numbers say they were the better team. Sure.
What
They are.
numbers? You prove numbers don't determine who's better. You have records. You
Yeah,
have
the
different
scoreboard
things.
does.
It's decided head to. It really is decided head to head.
The scoreboard does, and they are playing in tomorrow night's championship game. So here we go.
All right, numbers would say UCLA was the best women's team, and they weren't all year. And I knew they weren't all year. They might have gone and they got the number 1 overall seed because they beat USC in the Big Ten tournament, but they lost to USC twice during the regular season. They weren't the best team. I saw them play in person. They were not the best team in women's college basketball.
Houston got 8 more looks at the basket on second chance opportunities than Duke does. I mean, Michelle, you know basketball as well as I do to know that makes a huge difference. You get 8, you stole 8 extra possessions, and you hit 3 more threes. You are more efficient shooting the threes.
But it just doesn't look good for it to come down for that at the end. I'm just that's what I'm upset about. I think more than anything. And trust me, I am not. I mean, I haven't rooted for Duke for a while. And I liked Duke back because I loved watching Grant Hill play basketball. So but
I mean, interestingly enough, Duke and Houston had the same amount of fouls called on them during the course of the game. They both had 16 fouls, and they both had 1 tech. I mean, I just don't think you can say that officiating didn't cost Duke the game. That they did it themselves. John Shire did
one technical foul when the guy for Houston reached over on the inbound. I don't know how you guys felt, but I think I know I felt this way, and maybe a lot of other people did. I thought the game was over when that happened.
You tweeted it.
I mean, it looked like it was over, and
you tweeted it, didn't you?
I maybe, or you saw someone else. I mean, I just remember thinking, well, that's it. Duke has officially clinched this.
They look like the better team.
I will say this: Shire made a huge mistake in not letting Cooper Flagg inbound the ball against the press. I will say that he should have let his best passer inbound the ball and then come step in and get it back.
Or don't call a timeout. I mean, call a timeout there. If you don't think you can get the ball in, fine, call a timeout. You have a timeout in your pocket. I get you've got 30 seconds left in the game.
Yes,
they used their last timeout on the last possession that they got before the shot, but they had a timeout at the time of the inbound. If you're going to throw a bad inbound pass,
he did call a timeout the one time, and then they came back out. My point is, he should have. The thing is, I would have had Cooper. I will say this: Shire messed up because Cooper Flagg should have been inbounding the ball. One, he's taller and he's your best passer, and if you run it right, he can get the ball right back. But I would have wanted Cooper Flagg, and I would have run Knipple off of 3 screens, so he is open to receive it. My 92% free throw shooter. That's what I would have done. I will say this: I don't think and it's probably because I will say this. I mean, Houston's full court press is pretty good, and I don't know that Duke had really seen anything quite like it. It's going to be it'll be a press that's going to bother. It'll be a press that will bother Florida. Just because they can put some size on the end, down there and with their weight and their length. But yeah, no. I mean, is it fun? Yes, but unlike you, Will, I like a few upsets along my way in the tournament. Well,
I do too.
upsets that the seed makers think are upsets, or the media, and they're not.
Right.
I don't always believe they're upsets because sometimes I do believe a team that doesn't play in a power conference can be as good as or better than some of those power conference teams that are seated ahead of them.
And by the
So I
way,
don't mind those.
the other thing is Duke is the only powerhouse college basketball program in this Final Four. You talked about the powerhouse programs, Auburn and Florida and Houston. I mean, unless you count the 80s when Akeem Olajuwon was there, are not powerhouse programs.
No, Florida was with Billy Donovan.
Yeah, but they won 2 national championships.
Yeah, for a while.
And they've been back to the Final Four since
Billy Donovan. I mean, he's probably
he's
one of the more underrated coaches ever.
They haven't even been a consistent NCAA team for the last 15 years.
Right, since Billy Donovan left. I mean, he was a great coach. I mean, I think he's proven it because he's, but.
And they had some good teams in the 60s, and they've had some good teams through the years, like Auburn. That's not a powerhouse program.
Now, I will say this. What could hurt Houston is they celebrated after the game last night like they won the national championship, and they did not. Sometimes now, you celebrate too much. I will say this. I thought, I thought their celebration after winning was over the top because they have one more. And that win over Duke doesn't mean anything now if they don't go win Monday night.
When you're down 8 points with a minute to go and you win, you're going to celebrate.
Yeah,
I mean, not to that extent. They flooded the floor and students, and everything. Not to that.
I would have.
I don't know, Michelle. I disagree because
their season looked over.
I would have been pretty pumped if I was on that bench in that student section.
Yeah,
but I'm saying, but when your team and then the player and they all celebrate like that, I'm just saying that when you celebrate like that, usually you come back the next time, and it's not a good thing because you haven't done anything yet.
I understand, but they came back from the dead. They had lost that game.
Yeah, they had lost that game.
I know, but still, I've seen it. I've seen it firsthand. I've seen teams do that.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be.
That's what I'm just saying because you get on that high, now you have to turn around and.
There is a good point.
It'll be interesting. What I would love to see.
I would not be shocked if they came out flat on Monday night. I wouldn't be surprised if Florida jumped out to a 10-point lead in the first quarter at some point. Now, I don't think that that's necessarily going to stay that way. But I mean, whenever you have that adrenaline dump and I mean, it's not going to be. They're probably going to come out and spin the tires a little bit, but they'll figure it out. But I think to not celebrate that, win when
I'm not saying you can celebrate it. Did you see the way their celebration went over the top?
Yeah,
they celebrated like
I understand why.
A championship, and they had not won a championship yet.
And I understand why, but that having been said, they did use a lot of emotional energy last night.
They did.
This is a good time to bring this up. For the first time in my life, and I've filled out brackets for over 40 years, I picked the final two teams. I picked Houston to win the national championship to begin the tournament. But now I have to say that I think Florida is going to win this game. I think they are just the best team in the country. Walter Clayton's gone to a whole new level, and their entire starting lineup has some feared guys in it. So, guys, your thoughts on Monday night's game?
I also had a perfect Final Four and a perfect national championship with Florida as my national champion, and I feel really good about that pick. I think Walter Clayton Jr. If the Naismith Award was considered with the tournament, he would have won it. He has been by far, bar none, he's been the best player in this tournament. He has carried that team to victory.
You think better than Cooper Flagg?
I think in this tournament, I think Walter Clayton has meant
scoring wise, yes. Will shooting wise, yes. But Cooper Flagg does so many things.
He's really good, but boy, Walter Clayton has won games.
Stealing the passes, the rebounds, the block shots, things. I mean, unfortunately, Clayton just can't do some of those things. I think I'll tell you this. I think if you were to have an all tournament team that definitely, I mean, I think in my opinion, is headed by a flag, and then you got Walter Clayton Jr., and then you probably have the thing is, I really think that Duke probably, and we'll say you can go 10. Duke probably has two of them, and
Not if you
Florida
lose.
probably has 2 or 3 of them on that team. And I will say I do hate the Auburn. I hate it for Auburn in their game because I do think Broom's injury, and give Florida credit. They knew and they played and they got physical on that arm. They grabbed it, they poked it, they shoved on it, and it hurt. It bothered him. He played with 1.5 arms. He just did not have. And thankfully he's a lefty, because if he was
Played
a
well.
righty, Auburn probably would have been really toast.
Yeah, I mean,
Talking
go
about
ahead, Grant.
talking about Monday night here. I think I don't know how to put this. I almost think that I think it's evenly matched. I think it's one of the more evenly matched championships we've had. Look at the championship games in years past. Look at last year, Duke and UConn, or Purdue and UConn. Purdue was the second best team. I think UConn, no one was beating UConn. They were no question
No,
the best team. But Purdue was the second best team. But I think a lot of people still thought UConn was going to win that game the way they did. UConn was no question better than San Diego State in 2023. I thought Kansas, even though North Carolina had gotten hot at the right time entering the tournament, I still thought Kansas was the better team in 2022. I think this is the first national championship we've had since 2021 with Baylor and Gonzaga, where, at least for me, I felt like it could have gone either way. I think tomorrow can go either way. I think it will go either way. But I have to agree with Will in that I could see Florida coming out on fire and Houston coming out flat, kind of like how they did last night, and maybe them crawling back in it. Or I could see it being a back and forth game for 40 minutes the entire night. Either
Well, or
way, you're going to get two teams that I think either way you're going to get two teams that maybe at the season's begin, nobody except maybe their fan bases, they are good and they were good at the beginning, but I'm not sure a lot of experts and a lot of people maybe would have thought Houston and Florida would play each other in the national championship. So
see, and
we'll
I also
see.
think you could get Florida winning by 15.
I agree.
I think you can get Florida controlling from opening tip to the final buzzer.
I
I
think
really
Florida is
do,
going to
because they
control this
have
game.
their offenses. They have more offensive polished guys, and they
Mhm.
and they actually do a better job of truly running screens and creating shots. They get Clayton open looks. It's fantastic. Florida has an offensive
Yeah,
system.
they run an
Houston's
offense.
got a defensive system. They don't have an offensive system, but they have a defensive system. But I just think, Florida's got the size and physical, and and truthfully, I mean, Houston's, man, all these students are seniors and grad students. That's who and so they're grown men, and so a lot of the teams that they've played along the way, they have like freshmen and sophomores that aren't totally matured yet. So physically, they have an edge. I don't believe they have that physical edge against Florida tomorrow night.
I think it's 60-40 Florida in favor, and I think that right now the line is 1.5, and I would take Florida to cover that. I think that Florida is the better team. I think this is to maybe draw a comparison. I think this is a really good comparison of a great offensive team and a great defensive team playing each other in the Super Bowl in the 2020s NFL. I just think Florida's offense is going to be a little too much for Houston to handle. I think that Florida can get buckets a lot easier. I think that defensively they're pretty. I mean, Houston's very good, but I think Florida can match the physicality and the size that will
Yes.
create Houston problems. And Florida has a go-to guard who can win the game for them when they need him to. And I think that to me gives me all the reason to believe Florida will win this game.
And the great thing about their go-to guard is he really doesn't run the show. I mean, they do. I mean, they're able to get him able to. He can have the ball in his hands and hit pullbacks, but they're able to, like I said, run him off screens. I really enjoy watching the ways they get him open. But a lot of that credit goes to people. Don't understand. I know you can get screens, but the screen is only as good as the guy who's receiving the screen makes it. And Walter Clayton, he's phenomenal at rubbing off screens. I mean, young players should watch him play in that game tomorrow night if they want to really learn how to set your defender up and use a screen to get open, because he does it as well as anyone ever has. Maybe but he might do it. He might do it. I'll tell you, the other guy that did it, which is why he was able to score so many points and be such a good college player, was Steve Alford. Steve Alford knew how to use screens.
And of course, Reggie Miller is the all-time great. Just want to point that out.
Yes, I just didn't think I'd see Reggie play in college. I'm talking when I do this at the college level.
I agree with you. He definitely taught himself how to do that, but he ended up being the greatest to ever do that. Anyway,
Klay Thompson's really good too.
Who?
Klay Thompson, excellent at getting open. I mean, a guy that can score 50 points and take like 10 dribbles a whole game is really good at getting open.
After Reggie Miller,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I already said the one thing I thought about the draft. I think Cooper Flagg, my comparison, somebody said Larry Bird. My comparison is Luka Doncic. He, to me, is Luka Doncic, but has more to his offensive game, at least potential to be that style of player.
Oh, I'm going to stay with. You know what? Here's the thing. I am so happy to see an American-born player to like that, to have the game like Cooper Flagg has the game. And when I sit there and I think the kid's 17 years old, it's phenomenal. And I mean, he's only going to get better, and his skill set is so good.
Do you agree with me that if the NBA started over tomorrow and you had a draft, it would be really hard not to take Cooper Flagg first?
Oh, I would take Cooper Flagg. Somebody had a poll on Twitter today. Who would you take to build a team around, Flagg or Wembley? Wembley won it, but I voted for Flagg. I would take Cooper Flagg any day of the week over. He's who I'd start it with, just because basketball IQ is just too often it's too overlooked, and he has got such a good basketball IQ. I mean, he just has and what I mean is he knows where to go defensively. Is he super quick to be able to get some of the stuff? No, but his IQ is so good. He knows where the ball is going to go. He knows how to read the floor to where he can get a step to an extra, get a cheat step into a passing lane to cut, to take it away. I mean, I've enjoyed watching him play. And to be honest, I'd seen all the things, and I watched Montverde play, like I think 1.5 games a year ago. And he was pretty good. But the first time I turned on the game to watch him this year, I was really blown away. And I think what really blew me away is just how unselfish a player he is. And in fact, I'll tell you what, his unselfishness hurt Duke in that game at times, because he'd get in there, instead of putting up the shot, he was trying to flip it up to one of the inside guys, and who just was against Houston, that wasn't going to work. But I mean, he should have just taken the shot. But that's all right. I'd rather see a player like that be a little too unselfish at times than be a look at me type player. So,
Grant,
I like your question in terms of who would you want to build your franchise around, or who would you want to make the face of the league? Cooper Flagg's going to be the number one pick in the draft. We know that. It's no question. Whoever wins the draft lottery is going to get him.
76ers.
It should be, but we've seen crazier things. We've seen crazier things with that draft lottery, man.
Yeah.
But I do think you're right. I think he'll either be with the Jazz or the 76ers, and probably the 76ers. And I think he would fit in well there. And the NBA is going to do everything they can to try and market him to make him the face of the league.
They're not going to let him go to New Orleans, that's for sure.
Oh, they're not. That's why you want him with Philly or or
Yeah.
Utah that you could easily make a title contender in a few years. So I think they're going to try and make him the face of the league along with Wembanyama. I think the NBA is in good hands if he's going to be one of the top players in the league.
Oh yeah, I mean, maybe it might, and it might actually, because I think a lot of the reason, some of the reason that NBA's their ratings are not as good and people don't enjoy it as much is because you have so many international guys that they really don't know who are when they came over, and I think fans in the United States they want to see homegrown players
Hey,
be
I
the
gotta go.
stars.
I gotta get off here, guys.
Thanks,
Okay.
Grant, for your time.
Thanks for letting me be on here, and we'll talk hopefully Tuesday
Tomorrow.
about the
Nope.
title game.
Well, tomorrow you and I will be talking more about it on the IU report. So thank
Yep,
you so
looking
much.
forward to it, my man.
All right. Thanks, Grant.
Thanks, guys.
Will.
Yeah, I think that Cooper Flag at this point to me is a more polished basketball player than Wembanyama was coming into his draft. Personally, I think I do think he's a better basketball player, and I think it will take some time for him to fully grow and develop into his body. He would not be who I would take with my first pick to start a franchise, personally. However, I think that he's the full package. He has a really good chance to be that point forward at the NBA level, similar to a Luka Doncic. I don't think that he is as polished of a shot creator at this point as Luka probably was coming to the league. I think that's largely due to the fact that, I mean, Luka was playing professional basketball before he came to the United States, overseas with Barcelona, and I think that makes a huge difference with those European guys. Is that they're playing professional basketball at 16. They're used to playing against grown men. And I think Cooper Flag has the makings to be an absolute superstar, but he would not be who I would take with my first pick, just because
Who
I
would
think you're 3 years away from
Well,
him like truly having an impact as far as, hey, this he can take this team to the finals.
don't
maybe
answer
not,
this
but I think he
question,
could be as
Will.
impact both Kobe
Hold on,
Bryant
Michelle.
and
Hold
okay.
on. Don't answer the question, Will, because we'll talk about it this week on 5 questions that need answers. So about who you would build around. So don't answer it now. My other things I wanted to say real fast about the draft is uh, Con Knipple. If you don't take him, if you pass him up, and look, I understand Ace Bailey and Harper are really good athletes, but there's only one player in this draft that you're going to build a franchise around.
Hmm.
And
Yes.
then, so it comes down to then who's going to help your franchise the most. And if I have Con Knipple as an option, I'm taking him.
Oh, me too. Me too. Because you're talking about a kid another freshman he hasn't really, you look at him and his body's going to change. He's going to get to the next level. And even if he was here's the thing. Think about this. If all these young guys stayed at Duke like it used to be, and not the one, Duke would be scary, scary good next year.
Yep. That's not the way it works anymore. So.
No, it's not. But I mean, if you think about it, back in the days when Krzyzewski, like
Yep.
Dawkins and and Hill and all those guys played, they would be scary good.
Yeah.
Next year if those guys stay. Knupple's going to be somebody whose body's going to change. He's going to slim down and he's going to go into muscle. But you're talking about a player with another high basketball IQ. That's that kid.
Instincts.
I
Yes.
think Knipple will struggle at the next level.
Long
I
term.
I think long term, I don't think he's
Wow.
athletic enough to
I'll
play at
take
that
that
at
bet.
that level. I think he's a really, really good scorer. I think that he's a good spot up shooter. I don't see him
I love his
ever being a
instincts.
starter at the NBA
Oof.
level. Um,
There
and
are guys that disagree with you that have a lot more
Yeah.
basketball experience
and they,
than
they
we do.
can. I think that he's a great
We'll
college
see.
player. I don't see him being I think uh, comp. I think a Jimmer Fredette would be a comp of a guy that
Oh
never
no, he
probably
wasn't
figured
Jimmer
it
for
out
that.
much at the NBA level. I think that. Gordon Hayward is probably a fairly good comp, although I would argue that Gordon Hayward's
He's an
probably a little
all-star.
bit more athletic. Yeah, but where did his career go after?
Gordon Hayward's career got interrupted by injuries.
Yeah, that's
We
right.
don't ever know how good Gordon Hayward would have been in the NBA because he got injured too early. I mean, it was interrupted by injuries.
He had like
I
3
think
seasons in a row where he averaged 25 points a game.
Yes.
I mean,
I think
Yes,
I
he
think
was a max contract guy. Well, I mean, he was. You asked
and
coaches, they
that will
wanted
not
him.
be Con Knipple. As I think he
okay.
needs to stay at Duke another year, maybe
Well,
two
that'd be a
years.
good option for him.
It
I
would,
think
but
he.
they're projecting him as the seventh pick in the draft, and
I
that's
saw
what will
11th
be
this
hard.
morning, which is why I thought that was way too low, 11. The other two in there were 24 and 25 were Broom and Clayton, and I just think those guys are way too low. Broom just has that old man game that's going to translate for years and years in the NBA, and I think Clayton, it's going to take a while for him to figure it out, but you can tell by him going from 4 points a game to 8 points a game to 16 points a game to 17 that he is a gym rat, and he's going to get this figured out, and he's going to figure out the NBA.
It depends on who they go to and what coaches they get and how good they are, how patient they are, and good at they. You want to go into the right fit. And I will say this about the draft: I think players when they enter the draft, they ought to be able to know the order of the draft before and then be able to opt out if they don't like who the first, second, or third pick is because they don't think it's going to be a fit for them. I mean, I think that would be fair. I don't like the fact that you're in, and I just think that I just think that they should know. And that's why I don't really like the lottery. And I know they did it so people don't tank. Some of these teams still tank. I mean, they still tank because they know they're going to get, because it
Best way to
increases their
rebuild your
chances.
franchise.
So
It's the best way to rebuild your franchise. Of course they tank. You would be an idiot not to if you were.
right. And so here's my thing. But even if they did that, like I said, then it allows the player to say, "Hey, you know what? I think I can get more out of this where I'm at in college, and now
Yeah.
with the NIL, money
Yeah.
is not an object. So I think I can learn more by staying here
And
as
you're going to
opposed
see
to
that
going to
more and
that
more.
fit."
You're going to see that more and more, especially guys like guys at about the 20 level saying, "Nah, I think I'll stay and I'll make some money here in college, and then maybe I can improve my stock by changing my game." So,
I mean, I think that if maybe I'm blinded by the recency bias, but I would take Walter Clayton over Knipple. I think that his game translates more to the NBA level just due to the fact that he can create his own shot. He can get open himself. I
But
think Knipple's
Knipple's 6'9". That's
he's
what
an excellent shooter. He's an excellent spot up shooter. I'm not, and there is something to be said for that. I'm
he
not.
can drive. Did you not watch him in this
yeah,
tournament drive to the
I
basket?
love his game off
I
the
do
ball.
too. And he's
Yeah.
active on the boards. He's smart. Oh yeah,
I would love to be wrong. I just don't. I see him being a good, not great player. I see him being
His
a, hey,
athleticism could limit him for
you're
sure.
going to be, you can be a great sixth, seventh man off the bench for a team, but I don't think, like for me, if I'm Knipple, I think Knipple would be much better served falling to a 20, falling to a 25, where he's going to go to a team that's established already and not have the pressure to be the guy right away and to
Chris
be a
Mullen.
lottery pick.
Chris Mullen. Will, do you remember Chris Mullen?
Yeah.
It's a different game, much different
No,
game.
it's a lot of the same. Mullen was just a lot of this same type of player. He was just a lefty. Knipple's a righty. But at this stage,
Well, let's hope
you
he's
got to
that
remember
good.
he's a freshman too, huh?
Let's hope he's that good.
No,
I don't
I'm
want him
not
to be
saying
that good unless he's with the Pacers.
their game is similar, but I'm just saying that I'm saying that
But Chris
the
Mullen would give a
NBA
great
game
game to the
is
Pacers.
different now than it was when Chris Mullen played. I don't think it. I think that he'll be
So
a
you don't
good
think
player,
Chris
not a great
Mullen and
player.
Larry Bird could be as good in this year
Of
in the
course they
NBA
would.
today?
Yeah, I think so. I think that there are players that transcend generation, absolutely, but I think it would be a little harder. I think they'd have to do it maybe a slightly different way than they did it then. But yeah, I mean, I think that Larry Bird today would be a 48% three-point shooter.
Yeah,
Because he
exactly.
would be, I mean, it would just he would play a different style of
Adapt to
game.
it.
But like
Yeah,
that's, yeah. I mean,
adapt to whatever it was. Yeah.
absolutely. I just, I don't know. Maybe I'm just low on Knipple. I just kind of see him as a slow kind of
See,
white
that's what
guy that I
people
don't
think
think
he's slow until he
creates.
but he
He
A
is
does.
ton.
his
He does
athleticism
create.
could hold him back, but I don't think it will.
I
So
don't think it will because I still think. Here's what I think. I think he is still in a high school body. I mean, I think he's still. I don't think he's totally matured where he's slimmed down and lost. Hi, Susie, and where he's slimmed down and lost some of that what you want to still term baby fat. I think his body is going to change a lot in the next 2-3 years. I think he's going to, he gets in there and he does have. He's got great instincts. He can drive. I mean, does he look as pretty breaking down and driving? Creating a shot some no, but he's pretty good when he's a pretty good finisher when he does. And that's I just he was a kid. He was somebody that when I turned on and watched Duke, and a lot of the reasons when they were on, and I wanted to watch him is I wanted to see Cooper Flag because he was getting all this pub early. So the game, and my thing was I started going, well, who's this number 7? Who's this number 7? Because that's what Con Knippel did. He
yeah.
drew my attention with what he can do in the game, and and I just think I can't say it enough. Basketball IQ is huge. I will say this. It's one of the reasons Don Staley, and I'm going to flip to the women. It's one of the reasons she has had experienced success at every level is because her basketball IQ is so good.
So let's close
As
with
a
this.
player, as a coach, huh?
So let's close with this. What's going to happen tonight? Your predictions real fast. Let's start with Will, and then Michelle, you close it.
I have South Carolina as my national champion. I think that they will. I think they'll just kind of. I think it'll be close. I think that UConn is playing really good right now. That is a team that is firing on all cylinders. I just think South Carolina is going to be a little too much for them to handle. As far as you're not going to see coaching mistakes because Gino and Don are both so accomplished and so just prepared. I mean, they're probably the two. I mean, other than Pat Summitt, I'm not sure there's two better women's basketball coaches ever than those two, and I think they're both maybe making an argument that they really could be one. I just think South Carolina's got a little bit more talent. I think that will prevail.
Real fast, before you go, Michelle, I just want to say that Wayne Gretzky is now the second leading scorer in the history of the NHL.
Oh, well, congratulations to
No,
Ovechkin.
tied
And you know
one.
what? Big
T1.
Nope, not right now. Ovechkin just passed him.
Big props to Ovechkin for
Right?
refusing to go in and get the empty net goal to break the record the other night.
No, he just
Big
did it.
props
Yeah,
to
I'm
that
sorry.
guy.
He just did it. My
Yep.
bad. My
So
bad.
big props to him because I think that's pretty cool because I think that
Yep.
says a lot about him and I love it. To me it shows his respect for Gretzky and the history of the game. No, I don't want to break a record on an empty net, on an empty net. I mean, I like that. I think that was really neat. And I did, there was probably no doubt. To me, there was no doubt he was going to end up getting it. So congratulations to him.
All right,
But,
Michelle, your thoughts on you're sticking with South Carolina? I am too.
well, no. Remember in our thing the other night, I said I hated it, but I
That's
actually
right.
picked UConn. I mean, I have South Carolina winning it in my bracket. I did from the get-go, but because they do have the depth and it was nice to see Joyce Edwards revert back to good form, but I don't think there's a player in this year's tournament, and I know Caitlin Clark in the past with a lot of scoring, but I think Paige Beckers is playing is better than any recent women's college player I've seen in a tournament this year. I think it's because her supporting cast is finally healthy. She doesn't have to do as much all the time. And, I mean, she had to be their top rebounder a year ago. She had to be their top assist personal last year. She had to hit the key shots because of injuries to Fudd and to El Afi or what. Some of
Alfie.
these names out there, Alfie, I
Alfie.
can't really get. But, I know South Carolina, again, for South Carolina, UConn just beat the tar out of South Carolina earlier. Now, I don't believe that is going to happen. And this was just a month ago. I don't think that's going to happen tonight. I think it's going to be a close game. I actually think Don Staley is the best coach in the women's basketball. And, the So, and I think, Gino, he's got all of the numbers and everything, but just right now with the way the game is, there's just Dawn is as good as it gets. But I just think that UConn, I mean, AZ Fudd and then Chin are in the backcourt really helps Beckers. And I know Edwards is good for South Carolina, but I've said this all year. Sarah Strong is the best Cooper Flagg was the best freshman in men's basketball. Sarah Strong is the best freshman in women's basketball for UConn. So it's going to be interesting. Again, it's probably going to be who turns the ball over less, and just a lot like probably that Houston game last night as far as rebounding goes, and who if South Carolina can control the offensive glass, they will probably win. But if it's even, I still say, and you're gonna, they've got Beckers. UConn's got Beckers. It's like when Tennessee had Parker, and when Geno's had Maya Moore or Brianna Stewart in the past. When you have a player of that caliber, sometimes that can be the thing. I will be cheering for South Carolina. I believe UConn will win.
Thank you so much to Will Rutherford. He'll be back on Wednesday, probably Thursday morning for you, to talk about his 5 questions that need answers. And to Grant Shouse, our IU guy, he will be back on Monday for his IU report, and we'll also talk a little NCAA tournament. And to Michelle, who, of course, is the sports editor at the Tipton Tribune and Elwood Call Leader. I say this every single time because it's the truth. She is the best. And thank you most of all to you for listening. If you are interested in the Central Indiana Sports Report continuing to grow and thrive, please share these segments with your friends and family. We humbly thank you in advance. Anything you have to say to our listeners, Susie?
Thank you, and we love you.
That's not what I was expecting, but good call.
How about the Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media.
That was good.
You like that one? Did
Yeah.
it sound?
And it is.
It is. It's true.
It actually is.
Yeah.
You know what else?
What else?
I love Susie.
Aw.